everyone, and welcome to Brush and Bubbles and the At Home Craft Club. Thank you all so much for joining in with all of our tutorials. We hope you're enjoying doing them as much as we are creating them. Today we are going to be doing a sunset scene with sunflowers. So basically we've had quite a few requests for sunflowers, so I thought I would create it into more of a sunset scene. And we're going to be painting this on a slightly bigger canvas. For anyone who has purchased our art starter kits in the last few days, thank you so much, and I hope that they're all arriving safe and sound. But we are going to be using the canvas that comes in that box, so it's an 8 by 10 canvas. We're also going to be using a couple of different size paintbrushes. I think we mainly just need a slightly bigger one and then a smaller one. And then also you'll need a kitchen towel, you'll need your cup or glass of water, your paint palette. This also comes in the art starter kit, and so does your acrylic paints. So as soon as we get started, I'll be showing you what paints I'm using. Equally, and as ever, you can pick any shades and colours that you like. You don't have to follow along with the ones I'm making, but I will be showing you how to do it. So without further ado, let's get on to our sunflowers. So as I mentioned, you can use any shades that you like for this painting, but I've got white, red, blue, green, yellow and black. So I'll be showing you what I'm doing with all of these. To start with, what we want to do is we just want to map out on our painting where everything goes. So we just want to paint in a horizon line and then paint in where we want our hills to be. So for this, I'm just going to mix up a really light pink colour, because pink is the shade I'm going to do for my sky. So just with your little brush, just pick up some white paint, and I'm just going to add some red to this just to make a nice light pink colour. Once you're happy with this shade, we just want to go in and draw in where you want your horizon to be. So I'm going to find like sort of halfway down the canvas and then bring it down just slightly and just draw a line all the way across the canvas. So once you're happy with your horizon line, we just want to do another line using the same colour just to map out where our hills will be. So I'm just going to do a sort of hill-like shape. Once you're happy with your hills, just wash off your little brush. We're now going to pick up our bigger brush, and you just want to decide what colour you want to do for the top section of your sky. So I want to keep mine quite a pink like colour, and then I might blend it down into more of a peach. So I'm just going to mix up some more of this shade. Once you're happy with your colour, I would just add this all the way to the top section of the canvas and bring it down about halfway into the sky. And what I tend to do is I just use backwards and forwards sweepy motions across the canvas. So once you've covered up half of your sky with your first shade, I'm just going to add a tiny bit of yellow, and I mean a small amount because it goes quite a long way, into my pink. And then with this colour, I just want to blend it into my last shade of pink and bring it down about an inch or two. So I'm just going to draw a line underneath this line, get all my paint off my brush by going backwards and forwards straight across the canvas, and then once most of the paint is off my brush, I'm going to then go in over that line and just blend it out again, just all the way across the canvas, and just drag your brush up into that pink and the pink down into that peach, and it should give you a nice sort of graduated effect. Once you've done that, just fill the rest of that area in with your peach shade. Just give your brush a good wash in the water. What we're now going to do is mix up a few different shades of green, and this is going to be for our hills. So we just want to mix up the shades so that we can go in and sort of add them on top of each other. And we want to do a little dance between the colours as we're adding them on. So I would just still mix up these colours with your big brush. And to start with, I'm going to have white as my base. So I'm just going to move over some white paint to my palette, maybe to some of my other dishes. And then we're going to mix up our shades. So I'm just going to switch to my small brush. And then with the small brush, I'm going to add some blue and some green to the first dish, give it a good mix. To my next white, I'm going to add some blue, some green, a little bit of yellow, mix that all up. I'm now just going to mix blue and green in together. I'm not even washing my brush, so just blue and green. And then I'm not going to wash my brush, but I'm just going to mix this in with the white I've got here. We're just going to do a dance between these different colours. So with your smaller brush, I would just start picking them up. And this is the really fun bit because you can be really abstract. We're just going to start adding some of these shades into the hills. And I think as a rule, they're probably slightly lighter at the top and a little bit darker at the bottom because that's where the shadow would be. But I'm not even washing my brush off between picking up the colours. I'm just picking them up and almost just dashing them onto the canvas, mixing them and blending them while they're actually on the canvas and almost doing like crisscrossy sort of shapes and patterns with them, just to add a little bit of texture and just build them up. What we want to do is just slowly drag it down to cover this pink line that we drew at the beginning. And also as your sky is drying, I mean, I would start probably at the bottom, but as it's starting to dry, you can then overlap your hill with the sky. So we want to look like the sky's coming down behind the hill. So I would just keep picking up your colours, and when I get to the edge, all I do is I push down my bristles on my brush and sort of like be a bit jaggedy with my paintbrush, and it sort of gives you a nice jaggedy edge of your hillside. So just carry on picking up these colours. You can experiment if you want to by just picking up any pure green from your palette and adding that in, or pure blue. Just go for it. We just want them to look nice and abstract and textured and healthy green hills. And then pick up your bigger brush. And all we want to do is we just want to fill in this section with the colours that we're going to have for our sunflower. So we're just going to create a stripe because we want half of the section to be quite green and the back section to be more of sort of a pale yellow. So what I would do is just use some of the colours that you've already got here. If you've run out and you need to make more, do just make some more. I've actually just run out of green and blue, so I might just replenish. I've got some more blue and green, so I'm just going to mix up one of those darker shades, which was blue, green together, give it a good mix. And all we want to do is we just want to start picking up these colours, these same colours we've used for our hills, and add them to the bottom section of the canvas. So I would just draw a line around about here. So we've got more section, this is all going to be green, and that section we're going to leave to be yellow. So just fill in this whole area by picking up those different greens and overlaying them, being really abstract and free with your brush strokes, because this is only going to be the background, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just get all that paint on there. Once you're happy with that section of the meadow or the flower field, what we're then going to do is just pick up some yellow paint, and I'm just going to move it over to a spare dish and give it a good mix with the green I've already got on my brush. And then with this shade, we're just going to fill in the section that we've left here. What we then want to do, once we've got that all in there, is a little bit like with our sky, we just want to blend this line slightly. So I would just pick up some of the shades you've had for the other section of our field and just go over that line. Again, you can use backwards and forwards motions and just blend it up into that yellow, just to subtle it out slightly. So once our canvas is pretty much dry, we're now just going to move on to do our sunflowers. I've just cleaned that off and I've given myself some more yellow paint. So if you need to do the same, do so. I've also just cleaned my water and my brushes. So for the sunflowers, what we want to do is we just want to mix up a pale yellow. So with my small brush, I'm just going to pick up some white paint and mix in a little bit of yellow. What we're going to do is we're just going to focus on the back area of our sort of scene, because what we want to do is sort of create these very far away blurs of sunflowers. So to do this, all we're going to do is just start blobbing on this paint. Just very gently, just blob it on in the distance. And what's going to happen is we're just going to get bigger and bigger as we get to the front. And this is where all of our sunflowers are going to start to happen. So what you can do is you can leave little gaps if you want. You can almost create row-like looking shapes. Now this is going to look very strange and abstract, but once it all comes together, these just look like the flowers that are in the distance. And we're going to be adding a few different shades on top, but just get those sort of blobs all the way along that line. You can actually overlap it a little bit with your mountain just to cover up that line. Just get them all on there with that small brush. So once you've got all those shapes and patterns in there for our flowers that are sort of further away, what we're going to do now is if you run up this paint, just mix up some more. So that was just the white and the yellow. We're now going to go in and add in our sunflowers. Now, what we want to do is we want to have the sunflowers that are closer to us bigger and the ones that are sort of in the middle ground a little bit smaller. So what I would start to do is just paint in the bigger ones. And to do this, all we want to do is really carefully pick an area, and you almost just want to create a star-like shape with lots of petals coming off it. So I'd start from the middle and just carefully bring your brush around just to create these sunflower-like petals. Using the bristles of your brush, letting them do most of the work for you. So just loading up the paintbrush and just dragging it along. To create this pattern. And what you can do afterwards is you can just then mix up a tiny bit of orange shade into this yellow. So for that, you just want to pick up a tiny bit of yellow, red, a really small amount of red, and add it to the corner of this yellow. Give it a good mix. And with this, you can then go in and add a tiny bit of this detail in there as well. So you can just add little flecks of it into those petals. So I would just carry on adding these sunflowers along the bottom section of your painting, and as they get up to the bit that's sort of closer to those clusters that we've added at the back, they're just going to be slightly smaller, so just be a little bit more delicate with your brush strokes and they can overlap. Now just going to pick up some black paint. So what we can do for the bigger ones is just go in and sort of just almost stipple the brush in a circle, and sunflowers have quite a big center. So what I would do is start small and then just gradually dot it around and make it bigger and bigger and bigger until you're happy. For any of the ones that are quite far in the distance, you could always use the other end of your brush. So just pick up a little bit of black paint. For the ones that are smaller, you could just sort of use the other end of your brush if you want a little bit more control. And there you have your sunflower field painting.